Can Carla. Minister, we have a serious problem in our hospitals all over the country at the moment, with beds being occupied by people who are well enough to be discharged but have nowhere to go. At the heart of the problem is the amount of time it takes to get approval for nursing home support under the Fair Deal scheme, and also the growing numbers of people waiting for approval for home help under the Home Support Service. The knock-on effect of this is that people on the waiting list for operations and other procedures cannot get into hospital because there are no beds available to them. It has taken several weeks in many cases for applications for the Fair Deal to be approved. You have people occupying hospital beds who have recovered enough to be discharged, but who cannot manage on their own at home. But pending approval of their applications, they are expected to pay €900 a week and more to stay in a nursing home, money which they very often simply do not have, so they have to be kept in hospital until approval comes through. It is not where they want to be, Minister, and it is widely accepted that people need to get out of hospital as early as possible to avoid the risk of infection. You also have many others who could go home if they had sufficient support in the form of home care services, but unfortunately in many areas of the country we have long waiting lists for home help. The most recent figures of the number of people waiting for approval for home help is more than 6,200, with my home county of Galway having the worst record in the country, with over 670 people waiting for home help. Thankfully, our population is living longer, but that also means that the demand for home help services and nursing home care will continue to grow unless there are sufficient resources allocated towards meeting this demand. The problem of hospital beds not being freed up will also continue to grow. That will, of course, in turn lead to the growing numbers on the list for treatment, waiting for beds to become available for them, and also growing numbers spending nights and trolleys in our emergency department because they too cannot be moved onto a bed in the hospital. I acknowledge, Minister, that some progress has been made this year with regard to the number of people on waiting lists for inpatient or day case treatment. But we still have more than 72,000 people on waiting lists for inpatient and daycare treatment at the beginning of this month, almost 12,000 of whom have been waiting for a year or more. Galway's University Hospital has the highest number of any hospital at almost 9,400. The same limited progress, however, is not evident in the outpatient waiting list, which currently stands at more than 516,000 people. The total went over the $500,000 mark for the first time at the end of last year and has remained above the extraordinary level every month of this year. Again, Galway has the highest number of outpatients awaiting treatment at just under 40,000 people. My question to you, Minister, is what further measures does the Government propose to take to ensure that people are more quickly released from hospital into the proper care they need and ease the worry, stress and even the physical risk to the vulnerable members of our society?
Minister. And I thank Deputy Grealish not only for his question but also for his express acknowledgement that progress is being made on this matter. And I wish to assure Deputy Grealish and the House that the Government will continue to make progress on what is a particular challenge. It's a challenge that faces us as we come into the winter season, and let me assure the House and Deputy Grealish that the primary focus of Government is on reducing delayed patient discharges, and we can do that through the mobilisation of additional resources being made available. As he acknowledged, the aim is to ensure that social care measures are effectively deployed, which will have the effect of enabling older people to leave hospital and return to a more appropriate care setting, including, of course, primarily their own home, as quickly as possible. And if they are returning to their own home, they will need adequate supports. I want to assure the House that the HSE has been requested by Minister Harris, as part of its preparation for winter, to focus efforts on initiatives to enable hospital setting to de-escalate before the Christmas period, including supports of a social care nature. HSE has commenced a range of measures to support older people's transition from acute care before Christmas into the new year. These measures were welcomed yesterday by the Minister for Health and the Minister for Older Persons, Jim Daly. This includes an allocation of an additional 550 additional home care packages over the winter period. Can I say this is one of a number of initiatives which also include additional transitional care beds and €4 million for aids and appliances, which will assist older people to get to their homes for hospital before Christmas, remain in their homes over the new year, or indeed longer periods. The importance of transitional care mustn't be understated. If it's appropriate, it's arranged through utilising the patient and family choice of provider. The use of transitional care has proven to be extremely valuable in the hospital system. It has benefited and indeed continues to benefit the transfer of large numbers of patients to more appropriate settings. Information of a preliminary nature, which I'm happy to share with Deputy Grealish and others, will show that there have been over 9,800 approvals for funding to date this year, with in excess of 800 or 830 of those approvals were in Galway University Hospital. I wish to assure Deputy Grealish that the Department of Health expects the details of the winter plan to be finalised over the coming days. It will be published later this month, and I'm sure Minister Jim Daly, along with Minister Harris, will continue to keep the House and Deputy Grealish fully informed of all developments in this challenge.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Grealish.
Minister, I'm aware that there are many and often complex reasons for thousands of patients every year occupying hospital beds longer than is ideal. But the fact remains, and I am personally familiar with many of these cases, that the delays in approving the Fair Deal applications for nursing home care and delays in funding for home care packages do create some of these hold-ups. As I mentioned earlier, Minister, hospitals is the last place you want older members of the family members to be if it's not absolutely necessary. International research has shown that every extra day in hospital increases the risk of acquiring an infection, having an adverse drug reaction or developing problems like bed sores. And new Irish research published in the British Medical Journal found that older people in hospital were 72% more likely to be given prescriptions that were not appropriate for them. And Minister, the question that I asked is, and I want to call on the government to speed up the process of the applications for the Fair Deal schemes, which will free up hospital beds and get people out of hospitals and into beds. And also, Minister, there is a huge delay in approving the home care packages, and I welcome the announcement that you have made, but that is a huge worry also for families, for bringing a loved one home and no care at home for them. That's my two questions, Minister. Can you give a commitment that you will free up and speed up the home care packages and the Fair Deal schemes, the applications approval?
150 further home care packages, which was announced yesterday, is proof of the determination on the part of Minister Daly and Minister Harris in order to ensure that this issue can be adequately dealt with. I'm assured that these initiatives will provide older people with the type of care that they need, which is the type of care that Deputy Grealish has requested. And I'd be really keen to ensure that it's delivered in the right place and within an appropriate period of time. Older people wish to be supported in their own homes, in their own communities, and the additional investment in social and community care measures will support this objective over the winter ahead. The net budget for the Nursing Home Support Scheme is now in excess of €960 million. The scheme is currently supporting approximately 23,300 people to avail of long-term residential care. The current waiting time for funding approval is 3 to 4 weeks. But I want to assure Deputy Grealish that the Minister with responsibility for older people is focusing this winter on the issue of delayed discharges, ensuring that social care measures, including the investment in home support, which will assist people to return home to their communities as quickly as possible.